Long ago, in a quiet village by the sea, there lived a fisherman named Thomas. He was a man of simple pleasures. His life was the rhythm of the waves, the pull of the nets, and the quiet satisfaction of providing for his family. Though he was not wealthy, he was content. Each morning before the sun kissed the horizon, he would row his small wooden boat into the open waters, casting his nets with patience, whispering a quiet prayer to the sea. The sea had always been kind to him, offering enough fish to sustain his modest home. He lived with his aging mother, who would wait for him at the shore each evening, her frail hands weaving baskets to sell at the village market. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. The fateful catch. One day, after hours of casting his nets, Thomas found himself with nothing but disappointment. The fish had seemingly vanished. His stomach grumbled, and his heart grew heavy. Then, as he was preparing to return home empty-handed, his net suddenly pulled taut. The boat rocked violently, nearly tossing him overboard. His pulse quickened. Surely this was a great fish, perhaps a prize that would bring him fortune. He heaved with all his strength, muscles burning as he dragged his catch onto the deck. But instead of a giant fish, what he saw left him breathless. A mermaid. She lay tangled in the net, her silver hair flowing like liquid moonlight, her emerald green tail shimmering in the fading sunlight. Her deep blue eyes, filled with both fear and wisdom, locked onto his. "Please," she spoke, her voice as gentle as the tide. "Release me, and I shall grant you a promise." The dilemma. Thomas had heard the stories, the legends passed down through generations. Some spoke of mermaids luring sailors to their doom, of creatures who whispered curses beneath the waves. Yet, as he looked at the mermaid, he saw no malice in her eyes. She was no monster, just a being of the sea, caught in his net like any other creature. He hesitated, torn between fear and compassion. You will not harm me," he asked cautiously. The mermaid gave a sad smile. "I am not your enemy, fisherman. You have captured me, but I am not meant to be owned. Free me, and I shall not forget your kindness." Thomas took a deep breath, then knelt and carefully began to untangle her. He walked gently, mindful of her delicate fins. As he did, the mermaid watched him intently. At last, she was free. She swam a few feet away, then turned back. "Because you have shown me mercy, I give you a promise. If ever you are in great need, call upon me, and I shall come." Before he could reply, she flicked her tail and vanished into the deep. A change in fortune. At first, Thomas thought little of the encounter. But in the following weeks, his luck changed drastically. Each time he cast his net, he pulled in an abundance of fish. The market merchants sought him out, paying him handsomely. His mother, once frail, now had enough food to regain her strength. The village took notice. "The sea has blessed Thomas," they whispered. "Perhaps he is favored by the spirits." But Thomas remained humble, never boasting of his encounter. For many months, life was good. Then, as quickly as fortune had come, misfortune followed. The trials began. A great storm ravaged the village. Boats were destroyed, homes were washed away, and the sea, once generous, became barren. Fishermen cast their nets in vain. Hunger crept through the land like a shadow. Thomas tried to remain hopeful, but as days turned to weeks, he grew desperate. His mother grew weaker, and his own body ached from hunger. One night, he sat alone on the shore, staring at the restless waves. The mermaid's words echoed in his mind. With a quiet, trembling voice, he called, "If your promise was true, I ask for your help now." The sea shimmered, and from the depths, the mermaid emerged once more. The pearl of the tides. "I have not forgotten my promise," she said, her voice carrying both warmth and sorrow. She extended her hands, revealing a glowing pearl. "This is the pearl of the tides. It will bring you great fortune, but remember, wealth is not always a blessing." Thomas accepted the pearl, overwhelmed with gratitude. The moment he held it, his nets overflowed once more. The village, once suffering, now looked upon him with admiration. He became the richest man in the land. But wealth, like the tide, can be both a gift and a curse. The corruption of greed. At first, Thomas used his riches wisely. He shared with his neighbors, built a better home for his mother, and repaired the village boats. But as time passed, greed took root in his heart. He began to hoard his wealth, fearing it would vanish. He built a grand house on the highest hill, wore silk robes instead of his simple fishing garments, and turned away those who once called him friend. The sea had given him everything, but he no longer respected it. One fateful night, he held the pearl tightly in his hands and whispered to the waves, "Give me more. I want to be the richest man in the world." The mermaid appeared once again, her expression sorrowful. "You have already been given more than enough," she said. "Yet, you demand more." Thomas sneered. "If you truly have the power of the sea, grant me endless riches." A silence stretched between them. Then, with a heavy sigh, the mermaid spoke her final words. "So be it." The curse of the sea. The wind howled. The sky darkened. A mighty wave rose from the horizon, swallowing Thomas' grand house, his treasures, his fortune. The village watched in horror as everything he had built was taken by the sea. And in the end, Thomas stood where he had started, alone, with nothing but his fishing boat. He fell to his knees, weeping. The pearl, now darkened, lay in his trembling hands before crumbling to dust. The mermaid was never seen again. A lesson learned. From that day on, Thomas returned to his simple life as a fisherman. He no longer sought wealth but instead found joy in the gentle rhythm of the waves, in the laughter of his mother, in the kindness of sharing. He had learned that true fortune was not in gold, but in humility, gratitude, and respect for the gifts of nature. And though he never saw the mermaid again, on quiet nights, he would sit by the shore and whisper, "Thank you." Moral lesson. Greed turns blessings into curses. True wealth lies not in riches, but in kindness, gratitude, and respect for what we have.